Well, hello, welcome back to the radio room. It's been a little bit since I've been able to get a video out. Well, just everything in the world was kind of coming apart there for a couple of weeks. Had a fuel pump go out on my pickup, had to work on that, and just a few days ago was going to start working on a video and came out and decided in my computer had decided to it was going to retire. So had to get a new one in the radio room, getting it set up, getting the camera set up and everything. So hopefully the audio is still working good. Hopefully the video is still going well and still looks right. I tried to get the settings, if not back to where they were, but maybe even better. Hopefully they did. We'll see how this video kind of comes out. Wanted to give a little bit of an update on where we're at with the 101. Not a lot has changed since the last video I made. I did mention that I wanted to recap this radio, and well, I had to order some stuff for that. But some parts have arrived, and I figured we'd take a look at those real quick and kind of go over what's going to be put into the Yaesu. At this point, got quite a few capacitors that are going to be changed out in the radio, and a couple other things that I wanted to talk about on this radio. So right now you're looking at the top of the Yaesu FT101E sitting over on the big bench. Let's move over to the little bench and we will take a look at some of the parts that I've gotten in. So first off, in several of the past videos I had mentioned that the audio board, all of the Mylar capacitors looked like they were starting to get cracks in them, so I wanted to replace those. So I have gone through and ordered a number of capacitors. This is the exact amount that it takes for Mylar capacitors for the audio board. Obviously several different values here. These are polyester film capacitors, which really is the same thing as a Mylar capacitor. Mylar is just the brand name, but they're polyester film capacitors. I believe there's 26 or 27 of those. They are a lot smaller than the originals. The originals on this size, let's see, would probably been like that wide versus, you know, that wide. So gonna have lots of fun soldering or unsoldering the old ones and soldering these new ones in, and hopefully that'll improve the radio a little bit. It did seem to receive okay. I don't think I had that actually in the video after, I believe after the last video, and I don't think I put this on camera to put on YouTube, but I was actually listening to some stations on it. It is a little off frequency. I might have put that in there. I make videos for YouTube, and there's also some videos that I make that go on a local platform for our ham club. And it might have been in that one. I'm not sure. I'd actually have to go look at the last video I made. But all these right here are the audio filter Mylar or polyester film capacitors that I'm going to replace. I also told you that I wanted to replace all the electrolytics in the radio. And this is the kit. I've ordered that. This is actually from Klondike Mike's. He's not sponsoring this or anything, but a lot of the older radios that I've worked on, when it comes to replacing electrolytic capacitors, I usually go through him if he's got them available. He does a really good job. They're all Nichicon or Rubicons. They're at least the same voltage value. Some of them are higher value, and I believe all of them are 105 degrees, 105 C. capacitors, so that should be an improvement. Even if it doesn't literally fix something, it's still a lot more trustworthy. These are brand new capacitors. The other ones that are in there have been in there 50 years nearly, or just short of. I think the radio is actually about 48 years old. So got those. The nice thing I do like about going with Klondike Mike is after you order the capacitor kits, he'll send you an email and it lists all of the capacitors that are in the kit, value of them, how many there are, and it even tells you which board they need to go on. So that makes it a lot easier to find where they're going to be at and which capacitors are being changed out, like in this case in the AF board. 5, 6, 7, 10, 13, 19, 31, and 34 are all going to be 1 microfarad at 50 volt capacitors. Gives you the board number and everything. So I do like that. He emails you that with a code so that you can unlock it off of. It's basically like a cloud drive type deal. It's a shared file. So he sends you that. I also typically, and I haven't done it yet for this radio, but I usually go through and make myself a spreadsheet where I'll list these capacitors per board, because I'm going to work on this per board. I'm not going to pull out just all my 1 microfarad capacitors and change them, all the 1 microfarad capacitors in the radio. I'll pull out the AF board and I'll change all the ones on that. So I'll take this list and break it down and have a column for what's the original value, and I'll pull that out of the service manual for that value of capacitor, which one it is, C5, C6, C7, etc., and what I'm going to replace it with. That way I know, if I pull one out and I'm like, oh no, well this one, this is only a 35 volt capacitor I pulled out there. Well, I know, because I'll put this into that spreadsheet, that I'm actually replacing with a 50 volt. And the 1 microfarad might be a 50 volt in the radio anyhow. I'm not really sure. I mean, I guess I could pull out the part of this and look. So C5. See, they're only 16 working volt. I'm not sure you can see that. This is straight out of the service manual. C5, 6, 7, all those ones that are listed right here, which I do notice a little bit of a change on that. Let's see, 5, 6, 7, 10, 21, 1 microfarad. So, yeah, there might be a little bit of a change here. Oh, nope. There's 2 AF board ones, so 5, 6, 7, 10, 14, and 21. 5, 6, 7, 10, 14, and 21. That might just be a mislabel. Are all 16 working volt. He's put 50 volt capacitors in there. So they're never going to be stressed as far as their working voltage. Now the one thing as far as, and this is the complete kit, I'm gonna have an addendum to that complete part here in just a moment. This is the complete kit for the FT101 that Klondike Mike sells, and it covers the B, the E, the double E, or the EX models. I believe there's 55 capacitors in here. You can also get ones just for a couple of the boards. I don't remember exactly which ones they are, but I think you can buy just the electrolytics for like the regulator board. But I'm doing the whole radio. Now, the one thing that they do not come with is the big capacitors. He doesn't include that in these kits, which is okay, because I found them on eBay. Now, these aren't exactly the same as the 2 big filter capacitors. In the Yaesu 101, they're 100 microfarad. These are 150 microfarad. But they are 500 volt, and one reason why I am going with these, and I found a lot of other 100 microfarad, 500 working volt electrolytic capacitors on there, but I didn't like the size. And the size to me was kind of important, because I'll show you real quick. Let me grab one of these. I got to go over to the other bench. So take a look at that, and I'll take this over with me, and we'll take a look at what that one looks like as well, what the originals look like. So inside the radio, it's these two right here. These are the two big main filter capacitors, which are about that long. Just give you a size comparison here. These are a lot shorter, but they're the exact same diameter, and that I kind of wanted to keep the same. 35 millimeter, if anybody happens to be wondering, the 35 millimeter diameter is what these are. And I actually verified that. While I was looking for them, I'd actually put some calipers on these and checked what they were. They're nowhere near as tall. They have a little bit more capacitance, same working voltage. In fact, I think these might be 450 volt. So maybe we're taking a step up from there as well. This uses 105C, so they're going to have a little bit better as far as temperature rating. There could be some heat in there. But the nice thing is that, see, these down in here, you probably can't see that on camera, but down in there, these are actually held in place by two clamps that clamp around it, and then are affixed to the chassis. I didn't want to have to try and figure out a different mounting scheme in there, because the wires aren't going to hold it in place. It's not like these are going down through a board. There's actually a hole in the chassis on the bottom that this kind of sticks down through, and the wires are soldered straight to it. Without the clamps, there's nothing to hold these in place, and I didn't want to have to come up with a different way to try and hold them in there. So these will go right down in the same clamps as the original ones. And there'll be a lot more room in here too. I mean, these are going to be way down in here and not be sticking up nearly as far. So, yeah, I'm not sure it's going to hurt anything or going to help anything, but there'll be more room in this little compartment right there. There's also some other capacitors and some resistors in here, and if I remember correctly, and I believe it's actually written on the box here, let me see if I can get this back in here. Well, it's not written on the box, but these will fit Yaesu and some Kenwoods. Some of the older Kenwoods also had pretty much the same exact filter capacitors. Same size diameter, everything. So there's a couple of extra parts in here that would be used in a Kenwood, not the Yaesu. But the main key I was going for was these two guys right here. So that's going to basically change every electrolytic capacitor in the radio. All the boards, I think there's 2 or 3 that are actually what's called on the chassis. They're not actually on a board. One's over there by the, it's not the AF knob, it's the, I think the clarifier knob, the back side of the clarifier knob, I believe has one, and then there's one, I believe, on the output of one of the transformers underneath. I'd have to take a look again. But that's going to be all of our electrolytic capacitors. All of our AF board mylar or polyester capacitors. I've also, and from what I've learned on research with this radio, that C13, which goes between the driver tube and the input of the final tubes, the final amplifier tubes. C13, sometimes if it fails, it usually fails short, which means it's not blocking DC. So it's not coupling it right. I hadn't checked that one. I'd mentioned in a previous video that I was going to check that, but I figured if I'm going to all this work and I'm changing so much stuff out, I'll just buy a new one. So this is a silver mica capacitor, 82 picofarad, 1500 volts. It's a little higher voltage rating than the one that's in there, which is a good thing. The little compartment that it's in, and I mentioned in a previous video, the little compartment that it's in, there's a lot of heat right there. So I definitely want something that I can trust in there. If this one goes out, your final tubes are going to have a very bad day. There's also another one in that compartment, and it actually connects one leg, these both actually come together. So they're basically kind of working in the same area. Let me see if I can actually bring that up on the computer, and I'll show you where these are going at. Let's see here. So moving the little hand around here, C13 is right here. And if you follow that out, that's coming off the plate of the driver tube, the 12BY7A. Comes over, comes through here, and goes to the input of the 6JS6Cs. So you definitely want this one to be in good shape. Otherwise, you could have some DC coming through here, and these puppies are not going to be happy. You'd probably burn them up pretty quick, I would assume. And then 131, which also connects right here and goes over to the, looks like pre-selects, which is what they're saying, but that can't be right. But this one there, I've also seen recommended to be changed. Once again, they're both in that little compartment that I showed in a previous video and exposed to a lot of heat. And they do have some pretty high voltages on them, so we definitely want to make sure that we get them changed out. So I do have both of those, C131 and C13. In one of the previous videos, I did kind of point out that L7, which is the bobbin choke, or plate choke, looked like it gotten a little crispy, and I was a little concerned about that. I had mentioned in the previous video that I was just gonna kind of hope for the best and hope it was still in good shape, didn't either have a break in it or had shorted some turns out, which if it had just shorted some turns out, it might have been okay, but it wouldn't probably still have the same inductance, which could cause some problems depending on how many of the turns that actually shorted out to each other. And to tell you the truth, I probably wouldn't literally be able to know that unless it just did not play right or was getting RF back into the supply voltage. And after quite a bit of looking on the internet, I was almost certain that was an unobtainium part, and that was really getting me concerned, because the radio, with all of the stuff that I bought, it'd be a heck of a receiver. It's already a heck of a receiver, and I haven't even put all these in here. Once I got it working, I was actually listening to some stations. I got to do some frequency stuff on it. The dial and the actual reception are not on the same frequency. I checked that with another receiver that has a known calibrated display and a digital display on top of that, a much newer radio. And just basically went between the two radios and said, okay, well, this is where I'm hearing them on the newer radio. What's that compared to the dial on the 101? It's off. But this radio needs to be a transceiver. And you can't have a plant transceiver on a 101 without a good plate choke. But I found one on eBay. I think it was $20-something. It's a used one. But it's in a lot better shape. It does not look like somebody stuck it in the toaster and left it there. It's got maybe just a little bit of heat to it already. But that actually looks in a lot better shape than what I'm working with. So I'm going to change this out too. See if we don't get a little bit better reliability out of it, or at least peace of mind. So this will get changed out as well. I don't know if I'll put these parasitics in or if I'll just switch the ones that are already in there. But I mean, it's gotten a little warm, maybe right in here, but it doesn't look like it's really damaged or anything. Maybe a little bit of heat right there from the tubes, but it looks like it's in good shape. Check to make sure it's actually got some continuity on it. I hadn't checked this yet. Got some new probes. Oops. The bottom screw probably isn't going to do anything, is it? No! Let's put the probe in the right spot. Alright, now I am showing conductivity or continuity through it, so I think we're good. And I might change out some of these capacitors as well. Might test them a little bit first. Comparing for what they're supposed to be, just to make sure we're in good shape. But I thought I was never going to find that thing. I was actually just looking through. I had just about given up. Was just looking through, surfing around, looking at some 101s that people had worked on, some eBay stuff. You get to surfing around on the internet, and the next thing you know, you're just looking for interesting stuff. But I was scrolling down through eBay. The guy was selling. He has got a lot of parts for the 101. Just scrolling down, going, yeah, that I don't need that. I don't need that. I don't need that. And then I seen that, and it stuck out, and I was all like, oh, got to get it. And trust me, I could not. He only said he had one in stock. I could not press the button fast enough to get this thing ordered. So we got it, and we're going to change that out as well. I might check the other one for continuity. Might try to put try to test the inductance of it, see if it's good. If it's still good, I'll probably hold on to it just in case something should happen to this one. But let's see here. The only other thing I'm still looking for, and this may be the unobtainium part, but we're going to find a workaround, one way or the other. We're going to find a workaround. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. So if you're looking at the front of the radio here, let me see if I can get the light a little bit better onto the front of the radio. But we're kind of got a problem with one of our switches. If you can't see that already, right here is the meter switch, and it's broke off. I mean, it's not sticking out at all. I haven't pulled it out yet. What I might have to do, because I literally have not found this thing anywhere on eBay. The part number doesn't even come back as anything available. So it might be, if I can't find one, I'm either going to have to find one that's close. This is a toggle type, is what's originally in there. You toggle it up, middle, and down. If I can find one that's close and has the right type of pin out on it, I could replace it. The key is I don't want to have to change the screw holes. It's actually screwed to the back of the chassis, the front plate chassis there. And I think the hard part's going to be finding one that has the same spacing on the holes. The swing, if it's a toggle, has to be the same, because as you can see, it's already gotten bent in here. I'm guessing in the past it's been over switched. Maybe it was starting to go out and they were really having to push up or push down. Somewhere it got broke off. Or I could go with a slide one, but it's got to have a deep enough, a long enough part sticking out. There's probably nearly
3/16 of an inch back to the actual switch. So it's got to be long enough to stick out here. So I mean, I would work with a slide one if it just slid up and down. But the dimensions I think are going to be the key on that one. I could probably find a switch, but is it going to have the same mounting hole spacing? Is it going to have the same, if it's a toggle, the same swing? Is it going to, if I get a slide one, is it going to slide in the right amount? I mean, I'd almost, if it's a slide one or even a toggle one, I'd almost be happier if it wasn't quite as far of a swing. As long as it does, there's enough room, because I do not want to mess this up any more than I have to. I don't want to modify it physically to get that in there. One other thing that I would like to do, I mean, if I can't find, just briefly, if I can't find that switch, I might be able to find something that I could super glue to that switch if it's electrically sound, the switch itself, and extend it out and get the switch back like that. But that might be hard to do. I don't know. I'm just going to have to find out. One other thing that I hadn't really considered yet, I guess I kind of almost forgot about it when I was ordering things. And if you give me just a moment, I'm looking at the schematic because I want to find this to show y'all. Oh, there it is. So, right. Oh, I lost it again. Right here. C125. I'm going to have to take a look at this. Now, that capacitor helps to set the neutralization of the tubes, and you've got to get them neutralized. You don't want these things to start resonating, just sitting there idling, and they start resonating. So you need to be able to neutralize the tubes. So basically, you're just kind of combining the variable here, which is your adjustment, with this value, which in turn is connected to the internal capacitance of the tubes themselves. These values are all adding up to neutralization, basically. And I need to, what I'm going to have to take a look at, and I might be able to do this real quick. Obviously, you can tell from the well, that's not the right one. Let me see. Let me get my camera back over where it's supposed to be. I swung that out of the way. As you can tell, I got the radio back in the case. Changing that capacitor can be an important step when you replace the tubes. And I don't mean changing it because it might have failed or it's got the wrong, it's drifted, it's shorted out, anything like that. The capacitor could be perfectly fine. Problem comes when you replace the tubes and you don't use the original branded Japanese tubes, which from what I understand are next to impossible to find. I think they were made by NEC, if I remember correctly from the research I've done. You can't get them anymore. NEC's not around, from what I understand, from what I've read online. So a lot of people, as their tubes wear out, then eventually you'll have to replace the tubes on any tube amplifier, and that's a tube amplifier. So you got choices to make. Well, when you get a different brand, and from what I'm understanding, when you get American made or from an American company, the internal capacitance of the tubes are different than the original Japanese ones. So you have to change that capacitor in order to make the adjustment for that. Now, I pulled the tubes out of this radio when I was cleaning it, and I'm pretty sure that they were American tubes. So I'm going to have to go in here, and I've got to find out if they are American tubes or not for certain. If they are, I don't think I'm going to be able to access that other one, because I believe it's actually on the bottom or on the side over here. I don't know if I'll be able to see it without really taking the radio out of the case and everything else. I'm not even sure I can get this off of here right now. Yep, apparently. So I'm not sure, and I might be able to tell without pulling the tubes out. One thing that's really fun about this is that, in theory, you can change the tubes with the case on, but I'm pretty sure that's going to be a pretty darn fun thing to do. So if I have to pull the tubes back out, and of course the name is not on the side I'm on. So let's see if we can't pull a tube out. Take a look at it. Oh, come on. There we go. Okay, they're realistic. And they actually say USA right there. I do know that they're both the same. Alright. Now, the fun part. Getting it back in. Without being able to see the pins. And without bending any pins. This was fun when I put them back in and I had the case off. So I'll see if I can get these back in here. Because you really can't see what you're doing. Either your hand's in the way. Feels like I got a pin that's not wanting to go in right. That's the problem I was having before, is the... oh, got it back in there. I'm going to put our plate connection back on there, see if I can tighten that down just a little bit. Put that back on. So that does have US tubes in it. Now, those are the tubes that came in when I got it. Now I'm not sure if that other capacitor's been changed. So that's another thing I'm going to have to check. I'm probably going to be taking it out of the case anyhow. It's going to be a lot easier to get some of these boards out, especially like here. The way these are over here, the way this bracket is made, you kind of got two options. You can either undo it here, which goes to this metal plate. Try to lift them both out at the same time. Probably not going to happen. Got a little clearance problem there. So I'm probably going to take it out of the case anyhow. I might get these out and this out. That out, without taking the case out. But when I'm working on it, I'm going to have to take it back out of the case anyhow. So I'll check that capacitor, see if it's changed. On the original schematic, it had 100 picofarad capacitor in there. From everything I've heard and everything I've learned and everything I've read, in order to go with the US ones, you need to put a 10 picofarad in there because they have more capacitance. So I'll have to check that. Or maybe I'll buy one, just have it on hand, and once we get the radio put back together, get it working fairly decent. When we get to neutralization, we'll see if it'll neutralize. If it doesn't, and it's still got the 100 picofarad in there, we'll change the capacitor out and see if that helps. A lot of it has to do with the fact that the variable just doesn't have enough range to cover the difference in capacitance on these. So we'll get to that. That's probably going to be a little down the line. Got a few boards in there to pull out.
Oh, I also got this right here. I'm not sure if I mentioned this in a previous video. It's a mystery part that I found inside the VFO. I think it just looks like a block of acrylic. I think it was partially in there, and it was kind of super glued to the case and the variable capacitor inside there for stabilization. It didn't look like anything's going to move around, but there is another one in there, it looks like. It's on a different side, so it was just kind of rattling around in there. The funny part was, and I literally labeled it mystery part. When I was putting the case back on, because I was ordering parts, I didn't want the radio just sitting out here exposed on the bench. Keep dust out of it. I didn't want things to fall into it. I was putting it back in, and I was turning the radio around. What is rattling around in this radio? And of course I flipped it upside down, shook it kind of gently, a little bit gently, see if something would fall out. Nothing fell out. So I'm digging around in there, I had a plastic straw, just kind of seeing if I could find something that was kind of loose. Couldn't find anything. It was inside the VFO box, which is underneath this right here. I believe you can see it in a previous video. There's a box underneath there. Not sure you can see it. There you go. Right down in there, which is sealed, so to speak. Not airtight, but it's totally enclosed. I finally found it inside of there. So yeah, that drove me nuts for about an hour trying to find out what was rattling inside the radio. There shouldn't have been anything rattling. But that kind of brings us to the end of this video, I believe. I can't think of anything else. Just wanted to kind of get in there and get an update. I don't know how many people are kind of following along on this adventure and journey into restoring, at least electrically, or getting this radio back to operational. I wouldn't call it a full restore. But and just kind of bumping along here. Definitely learning some stuff as I go. To me, that's one of the best ways to learn things is just dig in there, do your research, and put your hands on it. So that's where we're at. Got some parts. Got 55 electrolytic capacitors, 57 if you count the two big ones. Electrolytic capacitors put in. I think there's 26 Mylars I got to put on the AF board. C13, C31. Those look like they're going to be fun. It's a tight little box to work in, especially for the soldering and unsoldering. And probably while I'm in there, I might check some of the resistors that are right there in that area as well. Make sure they're still within tolerance. Hopefully I don't have to order anything else, but I might have to order the new 10 picofarad for the neutralizing. And so in the next coming videos, I'll probably do a little, pulling the board out, changing out maybe some capacitors. I don't want to bore you all to death too much. I mean, you watch somebody pull out a capacitor and replace it more than a couple of times, 4 times. And it's just the same operation over and over again. But if I come up with anything else while I'm working on it, of course, I'll see if I can't put it on video and point it out at least. But in the meantime, I just wanted to get this out there so y'all could think we hadn't really stopped. It was just everything around here decided it wanted to break down at the same time. To top it all off, the kids got sick. So been pretty busy dealing with other things. So I guess we'll see you in the next video, hopefully. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. And like the video if you like it. We'll see you later. Bye for now.